So who of you guys wants to share the screen?
Mette Marie, I can share the screen if you, and then we take turns in explaining. Could that sound something?
Sounds great, I think.
Yeah, there. Okay, can you see the facilitation view now?
We can.
Oh, I just need, sorry. Yeah. Okay. It looks a lot different than the change management. Now, just a show of hands. How many of you have played the leadership games? Yeah, I can't see everyone here, but some of you have. At least Christina, I can see from my Zoom view now. And it works a little differently. It really gives you the results of where you are as a player. Right now we can see two teams in two different colors, red and blue, because it was only me and Alex's team who played, which is reflected here. And the goal of the game is to be perceived as a leader and rectify the results. So here you see how far each team have come in terms of percentage. At the same time, your team has a climate barometer, almost like an employee survey, showing how they're feeling right now in both flexibility, in standards, in clarity, in engagement, rewards, and responsibility. And here you can see that our two teams have exactly the same climate, actually, which is I cannot explain why, but perhaps one of you can. Yeah, Leif.
It's because you have marked you have went over your mouse in chapter 1. If you just make sure that you go to the red dot and just mouse over with the red, yeah, that one.
There you have it. Okay, good to know. Okay, yeah, because the red team has also answered more questions. They are in chapter 3 of 5, whereas the other team is on 1 of 5. So therefore, you have some differences in points as well. You can, when you click into the different groups, you are supposed to be able to see the questions, but why isn't that working live for me now?
In below, if you go below and then you click on if you click on the top in each group, if you click on the blue dot on each group, you then get the questions area.
Okay, so it's there. Yeah, you have to excuse us. We haven't really, worked a lot with this view before, so it's very new to us and therefore a bit difficult for us to facilitate as well. But I think that in terms of we only have the questions to go by. We don't have a full leaderboard or full board as you have in change management, which actually makes it, I think it makes it a bit easier to have like the full overview and you can pinpoint to any person. But for chapter 1, we chose new direction. And I think perhaps Leif, you can chip in here and tell me, you had a suggestion for how to go about it since it is a bit different than change management.
Yeah, you know what? I suggest that we actually, if you take this off, Marty. So my suggestion to the group was, because this is a fairly new, both the game and also the structure. If you then go up to the collective view, you just go up a little bit, and then if you make sure that you are marking the last one, so you have to just click on the red one, so you see both.
Is it this one you want to see?
Yeah, that one. And then if we then say, you know what, guys, all of you are experienced facilitators, right? So if this is the situation that two groups have been creating, please write down some cool questions that you could ask if you are facilitating this game, because what was not part of the facilitation guide for these guys were questions related exactly to the leadership game. So, and you are all experienced facilitators, so please write down a question that would be cool to ask a group in the facilitation at this point.
Leif, just a question.
Mm-hmm.
Can we choose the chapter? So is chapter 1 for both of them in this view?
Yes, you can. If you do that, then if you go up and you choose where the blue one is, and if you just check that one, that is the point. If you then go to the next one, take the next one, we probably taking the same. Then you can see the difference in each of the chapters when they take a choice.
So now they are all in chapter 1.
Now they're all in chapter 2, but the one group has not taken any choices in chapter 2. That's why the difference is there.
Okay.
But normally there will also be a difference if they take a different choice, of course.
But the most interesting view is this, because
Yes.
here we have some more information, right?
Yeah. So take that one, and then let's all think of a question that would be cool to ask here to a group of facilitators. So we all get a list of questions that we can bring with us if we are facilitating the leadership style game.
But is this the 6 styles?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
And it's the game called the New Leader. So you have to imagine that we've been playing the New Leader game, right?
Yeah. It was just so I have the theoretic part also.
Yeah.
In my thinking. Yeah.
And there are 2 goals. One is being perceived as a leader, and the other one is to make sure that you have the right results business-wise. And maybe we can write it in the chat.
And Mette-Marie, can you see the chat? Because since I'm both sharing, since I'm sharing screen, it won't let me go into the chat mode. Meeting controls.
Yes, I can see the chat.
There, okay, I got it up in a separate window here. I can move it here.
Life. Can I just ask you, on flexibility, the red dot is not there. What does that mean? It's not there at all.
The red dot is not there. What do you mean?
In flexibility on the
that's because it's in the middle. It's on 0.
There.
Yeah, it's either
then you
there.
Can't see it.
No, you can't see it. So that's why. It's off. It's either plus or minus. It's on 0.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. Do you have any more?
Yeah, just one more.
is super nice with birds. I want birds too. Can I have my own? Okay. That is like super nice questions. Is there more? Do you guys have more? Okay, then let's imagine that now you guys are the facilitator, so we are having the same picture on the screen, and you can then just pick one question and see how it plays out, and the rest of us are then back to the role of being players, right?
Do you want me to pick questions here, for instance?
Yeah. And
About...
just imagining that you have a real group. Now we are again back to being the real group, so we will try and answer the question as you ask it, right? So you can see.
Yeah, but I'm actually having a bit trouble getting your meaning, and now I'm a bit confused actually. So now
Okay.
you want us to get into this question and connect it to one of the others, or?
No, just pick one. Imagining that what we have now in the chat box is like 15, 16 different questions, right? That you could potentially ask to the group, and then imagining that we just took the first one. When did you focus too much on results, and how did it change how people perceive you as a leader? So having the view that you have there, if you scroll up a little bit. Yeah, so we could basically just ask, you can see there are two goals. There is one on results and one of you being perceived as a leader. Has any of you ever focused too much on results in your leadership? That could be the question.
Let's go with that one.
Let's go with that one.
Yeah.
Guys, have any of you ever focused too much on results?
Yeah, of course. Especially when we are behind, then it gets more focus and we forget perhaps the process, and then we push on results, and the people's well-being is hurt. So yeah, the balance is important.
Yeah. So have you been in a situation where you've seen, the climate in your own team decrease significantly after a goal focus?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like a centralizing and decentralizing. It's a curve that you have to secure that you are almost in the middle of how do people get along, and how are they thriving, and do you get the results done?
What did you do to change the climate then?
Yeah, my personal experience is that as a middle manager, you have to be like a chameleon. So when there's a large pressure from above, you have to be a filter on that pressure instead of just pushing it downwards, because you have to dose it in the right tempo to get the people to go along. Otherwise, they just go into resistance, and yeah, and then you just struggle even more to get the results done. So it's like an evil spiral going downwards.
Have other of you tried to have this, trying to balance getting the goals and having the climate right? Has any other of you have tried that? Experienced that?
Katrine?
Yes, I think I usually focus too much on results and too less on the people and the climate when I'm under pressure, as a little bit as Lars said. So it's like something in me. When I feel stressed, or if I'm pressed from above, I tend to go in that direction. So my decisions as a leader are made out of pressure and not out of a more strategic and conscious, clear view.
Yeah, sorry.
No,
Mette?
keep on.
No, I was wondering if any of you have experienced any of the 6 styles. Which one do you think works best for both reaching results and keeping a positive climate? Do you have any preferred style which you know which you know works, so to speak? Yeah, Katrine.
Yeah, I think I don't have like one preferred, but what I usually do is that when I use the blue style, I try to have the orange in my pocket and the other way around. So it's like the affiliative style. It's orange, sorry, I think in colors, and you have different colors, sorry for that. The affiliative style, when I use that, I have the commanding style in my pocket or the other way around.
Okay,
Because
so
it's like to make a balance.
yeah, to counterbalance each
Yes.
style, so you
Yes.
don't use one.
Or or it could be I have the democratic style along when I use so when I go into something with a commanding style, I try to have either the democratic style or the affiliative style in my back pockets. So I have to remember you have to use them as well. So don't overdo it.
Yeah. But do you have any experiences, any of you, of using the commanding style too much and you know, the effects on team climate there?
I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am also like Katrine is saying. I have a lot of maybe more the pace setting than the commanding, but it's very similar. I'm very often realizing that I've been too pushing or too going for the results, and then I have to shift into the affiliative. I can also start the morning with being very affiliative, and then as the day go on, I shift more and more into the pace setting and the commanding. So.
With the stress getting to you, like Katrine said.
Yeah.
Very interesting, you know, with the, you know, your personal mood of the day and how it shifts.
Yeah. So
I was thinking also there was a very good example in here about, you know, how would you work to get more clarity in here? Which style would you choose to heighten clarity in the climate barometer?
that's like a super cool question.
I think the amount of communication and the amount of not just communicating the decision, but also communicating what things went to the decision is a way to create clarity, because then the people are not necessarily agreeing, but they understand why it was that decision that was chosen.
Katrine, go ahead.
I think my first reflection is that I would use the visionary style to create clarity, like to create the big purpose. Why are we doing this? What is so to get the meaning, and then to use the democratic style to get the individual, the subjective meaning. So like to get people to ask questions and to hear them. So because if I only use the visionary style, it could be a bit abstract or a big, maybe it's just in my head, it makes a lot of sense. So I have to kind of get the subjective perspectives with me. And then I think I would use the democratic style for that, to asking questions.
That's interesting about, you know, the game versus reality is that, you know, when you give a message, you can use both styles. You can be very clear and commanding about some parts and perhaps, you know, be affiliative as well as you conclude the meeting. But the game doesn't really open up for that, but it does in reality. That you, as you say, Katrine, that you can realize that perhaps I need to use the commanding style, but I can have the affiliative in my back pocket and use that later. And thankfully, reality is much more like that than, you know, the compounds of the game. So, yeah, I don't know, Mette Marie, did you see any more questions you would like to ask?
I have one here from Katrine. How important is the climate at this point in the new leader game, and why? Feel free to answer.
Isn't that a question for life? How many more steps is there? I can't remember. Is it 3 more?
Yeah, 3 more steps. Yeah.
Okay. So
But
in the middle of the process, yeah.
what was the question? I forgot the question. I was looking
How
at.
important is the climate at this point in the new leader game, and why?
My answer would be that no matter what game you play, the climate is important in all games, in all parts, because that's what you basically are learning. You add a style and then you change the climate. So you have to see those two connections, and if you can get people to understand first what leadership style are you using, and secondly, if they can remember the impact it has on the climate, then you have actually achieved a lot, because then they know results of being a specific or using a specific style will have this certain impact, and that will allow them to correct their leadership moving forward. So both of them are important, but you can actually almost see it as a learning goal is to know the 6 different styles. Secondly, to know the different climate barometers. And if you achieve both, you have achieved a lot, because that gives you a toolbox as a manager, right? So that would be my perception. But I'm kind of curious. I have a question for the facilitators. What is which one of these are having the best situation right now?
Isn't it a bit difficult to say, because the one is in step 1 and the other is in step 3, so they're not really comparable?
Yeah, but let's just imagine that they have played the same amount of choices. So let's imagine that both of them have created the same situation here. What is best, would you say?
The red one.
Yeah, I agree. They're just a bit behind on climate, but have achieved goals to a further degree. So perhaps a better balance between balancing climate and goals.
Yeah. So are you suggesting that we should skip the climate barometers and go for the results? It's a trick question.
I think sometimes it is necessary to actually go for the gold, and then you have to clean up whatever mess you made in the climate area. And I don't think we can talk about winning or losing here. I think it's a matter of situations. It's a matter of the people who are in the teams and so on. So I think we should more see this as how we can reflect on the results here to meet situations.
And I also like to add that, you know, in some situations, I think people are more open to harder leadership styles, for instance, the pace setting, because the situation demands it. And I think the Corona situation is a very good example of that, because right now we, as I feel that, at least for our sakes, as employees, we are willing to go the extra mile and take more pain because we know that the situation around us is so uncertain. So we go the extra mile for our jobs and you know, let our leaders demand more from us than we would usually do. So sometimes we're just you know, willing to take more heat because of the situation.
I will say that you should never compromise the climate based on the goal, that you should actually try to balance it. And I think it's possible, even though under COVID-19. I think actually my company under the COVID-19 has handled that very well. They have been very facilitate. What was it again? That leadership style? I forgot how to pronounce it. Affiliative. Okay. Sorry, yeah. Affiliative, and they were very informative, but at the same time they have been very pacing, but not commanding at all, actually, in except for how we are going to work together. So I think the input to the participants will be, you have to consider the balance between this, and I think it's really a sign of bad leadership if you just compromise the climate based on the goal, because there will be a lot of cleaning up afterwards, and at least you have to be prepared to give that extra energy, time, attention to your leaders or to your employees afterwards. So that's the kind of reflection you should have if you do just go for the goals.
I have one question, Martin. Maybe you can help me to answer that. So when we look at on the screen, we have the climate barometer, and then we have the goals. So this climate barometers, there are like 6 kind of different climate barometers that is measured. And for example, if you take the red team on responsibility, it's -2. And many other results that we can see. Does this mean that in this case, for example, that the red team had taken a lower responsibility or has not taken enough responsibility, or how we should interpret these dots and results in this scheme and maybe connect to the goals?
I think I'm going to pass that question on to Leif, because he knows, you know, the system and the theory much better. This view is quite new to me. So Leif, would you like to answer Alex on that one?
Yeah, it means that each of the choices you make in the games are having a certain impact. So depending, and that is not something we come up with, that's Goldman's theory. He says that each of the styles has a certain impact of the 6 climate barometers, positive or negatively. And in your overview that Marta showed that you guys have made yesterday, you could see which one has a positive and negative impact on the climate barometers on each 6 of those. So by choosing, as an example, the commanding is very clearly negative on all barometers. By choosing the commanding, you will then decrease the climate barometers. But by going with the affiliative style that are almost always positive, that will increase or create a more positive climate in your organization. And your job is to figure out which one should you go for and what are you trying to achieve with that specific style right now. And then
sorry.
And then again, you have to be aware of the 2 goals, which is something we added in, but that is a game element. We want you to have those 2 different goals, right?
Marta, you're showing your teams now that we can see what you're right. Yeah. Sorry. So does this 6 different? Does those barometers correlate with the goals, or it's not? It has nothing to do. It's just.
It does not correlate theoretically with the goals. It correlates game-wise with the goals. Right?
Okay, I get it. Yeah. You put it. That's kind of.
Yeah, to support the storyline. If you play another game, you would have 2 other goals. But in this, it's a matter of becoming a new leader. So you have to distinguish between being a new leader and creating results as the business, right? Okay, I think we should close this one in and give the Dozen team a great hand for this very cool facilitation. And I'm going to ask you guys, did the questions that we got, were they good? Were they helpful for you?
The questions were super helpful, so thank you so much. I must say it is well, it's a bit of a struggle on short notice to kind of get your brain around the facility, or the screen and everything you need to take into consideration. And this is just something we have to learn more about.
Yeah, I guess so too. I think you should have a couple of practicing where you just use the questions that we just had. I will send them to you afterwards in the mail, so you all have them, so you can add them into your own facilitation.